All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Planning for Screeners session with myself, Courtney, and two representatives of the ELAL team and Caroline Leps from the math team. You can access this slide deck by typing bit.ly/kinderjan into your browser. We will be posting this presentation on the kindergarten SharePoint, and we are currently recording this session so that we can also upload it to SharePoint for those that were unable to join us today. We are going to manage the chat as well. So if you do have any questions throughout, we will try our best to answer those as we are going through this slide deck so that we can all have a better understanding of what is happening with these screeners coming up soon for kindergarten. So I will just ask that you have your mic muted. And we will get started with a prayer. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen. Dear God above, so kind and true, we come today to learn from you. Help us grow in all we do, to be strong, smart, and kind too. Give us patience every day to work and learn and laugh and play. Help us be good friends who care and show your love everywhere. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Okay, I'm going to lead us in Treaty 6 acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of Treaty 6 and homeland of the Métis. We also acknowledge the Inuit and other diverse Indigenous peoples whose ancestors have marked this territory for centuries, a place that has welcomed many peoples from around the world to make their home here. We at Edmonton Catholic Schools commit to restoring and honoring the truth and reconciliation calls to action. We strongly believe that truth must be acknowledged to move forward with reconciliation. Together, we call upon our collective communities to build a stronger understanding of all peoples who dwell on this land we call home. Okay, we're going to get started with our day. Let's go over the agenda for the day. The first thing we'll be going over is the access to the teacher dashboard that we will be using to input the data this year. An overview of all four screeners, the PAST, the LENS, the RAN, and the provincial numeracy screener assessment. We will also have a teacher checklist of everything that needs to be printed and all materials that you will need for each screener. There will be planning templates for December and January, all of your dates scheduled out for you to help you keep track of when you should be doing your screeners. And at the end, there will be a link to some self-directed center suggestions that can help keep your kids busy and learning while we are doing our screeners.
All right. We wanted to make note that these screeners are being administered in English. If you are a French immersion teacher, these screeners are being administered in English and not in French. If a child happens to answer in French, those answers will be accepted, and you can mark that on your scoring sheet, but all of these screeners are being administered in English. We have also had many questions about exempting children from these assessments, and we wanted to make a note that exempting children from these four screeners in kindergarten follows the exact same process as you would be exempting a child from, say, a PAT. So the child's teacher, the parents, and administration would need to be consulted in order for this process to be followed through with. And this is only for children who cannot even attempt doing any of these screeners. So that would be anything due to behavioral, intellectual, learning, communication, or physical characteristics, or any combination of them. This is straight from the general information bulletin that can be accessed on New Learn Alberta, and we're going to show you where those documents are today. The first step that all teachers should have done prior to coming to this session is requesting teacher dashboard access. In order to do that, every teacher needs to go to New Learn Alberta and make sure that they're logged in. and they will be gaining access from there. This screenshot is going to show you which box you need to click to get access as a teacher. So in the center of this slide, you'll see that there is a blue number 1, and you will check off the box as SLA teacher. You need to make sure that you have your teacher certification number in New Learn Alberta as well, and that you're logged on properly. And then we have some slides to show you where to get to. Prior to checking off this SLA Teacher 1001 box, you are also going to have some questions to answer, filling out your name, your school phone number, and all those kinds of things. There are instructions as well on how to gain Teacher Dashboard access if you have not done so already. And here's that larger slide that I was talking about, and that's the box that you want to check as a teacher in order to gain access to the dashboard.
Unmute. This year, we are not putting any of the information into PowerSchool. You need to use the teacher dashboard. So this is the Student Learning Assessment Dashboard, or the SLA. None of the screener results will be submitted to PowerSchool. All you have to do is use this so that it goes to the government. So there is a little hub with some resources to support data entry with your screeners. When you go to newlearnalberta.ca and you go under the Provincial Assessment Hub, there is a little button that says Data Collection. Once you click that, it'll show you all of the little helpful guides that they have, but specifically this instructional video for data entry is the one that you're going to want to watch to help support you in putting in the data from the screeners. So make sure that you are accessing the Provincial Assessment Hub. Now, if you're logged on to New Learn Alberta under your school email, you will see this Provincial Assessment Hub pop up. If you are not logged in, it will not pop up for you. So it's very important that you make sure that you are always logged in so that you can access the Provincial Assessment Hub, but it is under New Learn Alberta.
All right, the ELAL team has put together this fantastic slide that's all clickable that gives everybody an overview of the PAST, the RAN, the LENS, and the Provincial Numeracy Screener Assessment. We want to let you know that if you see links absolutely everywhere, it's because we try our best to link everything for you, but we are unable to link things that are behind the New Learn Alberta firewall directly, and we are only really able to give you instructions on how to get there. There are some links that we have available here on SharePoint. For example, the administration video for the PAST, the administration video for the RAN, and the PAST pronunciation exemplars were all created within Edmonton Catholic, and so those are accessible for you. And then there's some pictures here of what the front of the assessments should look like as well. So if you need an overall guide about which assessment is being done when, then this is the slide for you. We are going to toss it over to Stephanie Peterson to give us a little bit of an overview of the 3 literacy screeners.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Good. Okay. Yes, thank you, Kathleen and Courtney. So Carolyn and I are just here to chat a little bit about the literacy screeners. We won't go too deeply into any of these, but when we think about the foundational skills for reading, we're looking to phonological awareness, fluency, and phonics. So this sort of triangle of foundational knowledge and skills are what can give us the best, most comprehensive indication of a child and their readiness to emerge as readers. So previously we've done the LENS assessment, which has kind of really given us that glimpse and that look into their skills within phonics, so letters and sounds and the connection between the two. The addition of the PAST and the RAN are giving us this idea and this information that we can kind of look more holistically at that child. So the PAST is assessing their phonemic awareness and giving us a sense of their phonemic proficiency. And this is a critical element for students learning to read. And then the other assessment is the RAN. So this is the rapid automatized naming. And this is assessing the cognitive automaticity and speed. So this is not a math assessment. It's not a numeracy screener. It is just one that is giving us a sense into fluency. And that is, again, a critical component for reading comprehension and fluency. So let's jump in unless Carolyn wants to add anything to that.
No.
Okay, so the PAST is the phonological awareness screening tool. And when you administer this test, there are very clear instructions kind of about what to say and do as you go along. But a few key points is just the scoring sheet. Like I said, just with the script and the instructions that are on there, how to verbalize and how to sort of, I guess, be clear and consistent with the expectations there are all listed. And then always use the letter sounds. So we don't want to say the letter names in this one. So for example, if we did say feet, now say feet, but don't say and then students, we don't want to, basically we just don't want to say now say it without the F, right? We just want to use the sound. So that's a pointer for that one. If we keep moving along, just that the materials you would need here when you do print that off or access it on Learn Alberta, that the instructional sheets and those guidelines, you would just need one copy per teacher, but then the scoring sheet, you would need one of these per individual child. So if you need information a little bit more about the administration or what that looks like, you can watch this video that our colleagues Lisa and Teresa, our reading specialists, put together for us to support this administration. So this is on SharePoint, like Kathleen said. It is very helpful. And if you do want to take a look as well as the pronunciation exemplars, those are linked here as well. So just some tools.
And we think you'll be super comfortable with this one because we
Yeah.
know that phonological awareness, phonemic awareness instruction is happening in your classroom. So your kids will also be super familiar with it. And we love analyzing this data because after you get those results, and we'll talk about that later, but after you get those results, you literally just look up and it tells you where to start. With the next skill that those specific students need if they are requiring more support. So
yeah,
we love this
that's
one.
perfect. Yeah. And even just to add on to what Carolyn said, as that test is sort of broken down into those sections, if the students are struggling in the syllabic level or in onset rhyme or in the phonemic level, that tells you exactly kind of where we need to go with that instruction. So it's very informative. The next test is the LENS assessment, which we've done in the past. For kindergarten, they are doing just cards 1 and 2. So this is just the naming of the letter and the sound production for that letter. Basically, this again just tells us if they have that readiness to use those foundational phonics skills to start to develop and to piece this all together with the other skills in phonological awareness and fluency to start becoming independent readers. In terms of the LENS assessment, the materials needed, again, just one copy for the teacher of the instruction sheets, as well as one copy of the LENS cards. This is what you're presenting to students. They're identifying the name of the letter they see, as well as the sound of the letter. And then the scoring sheet, you would want a copy of that for sure for each child. And in this one too, just some of the notes is listing kind of for the schwa that, and just make sure that when you're modeling, I know there's the example that you can kind of give at the beginning that, again, when asking students, let's say if they identify F, that we're listening for F, not Fa as the sound, right? Not adding that extra schwa at the end. A few of the instructional tools for implementation here or for administering these are available on the SL or on the Provincial Assessment Hub. So these ones are not available on SharePoint. These are government provided instructional videos. So there's the LENS one linked there specific to kindergarten. And that again is, the link will take you, I guess, just to the Provincial Assessment Hub. You have to navigate through those literacy support documents to find the instructional video as well as the pronunciation exemplars. And that other assessment here is the RAN. So this is the other new one. Again, for support in administration, Lisa and Teresa have this video as well available on SharePoint of how you can administer that one. For the RAN, we do need a timer. So we are trying to see how quickly, I guess, students are able to automatically name the digits that they see. So for this one, you need again, the teacher instructions, the cards for students. There is a practice card that you can use, and I do recommend or that you would go through that with students and then move into that full page card one for them. You're scoring them with 1 copy per child of that scoring sheet, and a timer, I guess, is what you need for that one. Carolyn, did you want to add anything for me
No,
on
just I
RAN?
mean, we always, I know you touched on it briefly when you were introducing the RAN, but just we use numbers. It always comes back. Why are we using numbers? Why are we using numbers? So we just, of course, wanted to reiterate that we're using those numbers because they should be highly familiar to children, and so we can assume that the automaticity they have with those familiar numbers would be translated to now letters, sounds, and high frequency words. So it just gives us an indication.
Yeah.
But we always get that question again and again, but. Yeah, that's why.
And I've had even just the question too that well, in kindergarten we're just learning numbers like up to 5. Is that right, Kathleen?
About now, yeah.
Okay,
But
okay. And so yeah, I've just had the kind of question that should I be teaching more numbers or higher numbers quicker? And that's not what this is meant to tell us. This is not informing us on a math curricular outcomes. This is just on cognitive processing speed, long-term working memory, and the automaticity. That's what we want to a glimpse into here. And so that's how this informs not what students need, but how they're going to need it as we progress into more reading instruction. So just something to keep in mind. We don't want to adjust anything, just getting a sense of that automaticity. But I think
I'm
that's pretty
also
much
going
it.
to add that
Yeah.
it's really important with all of these screeners to read all of the directions that are given out. But especially for this RAN one, with that practice item, if the children cannot identify any of those 4 numbers, you actually discontinue the use of the test. So that would be something to note as well. So everybody should make sure that they read all of the instruction sheets before going through these to make sure that they know exactly what's being asked of them. So that's perfect, Stephanie. Thank you so
Okay.
much. Stephanie, did you want to speak to this, or should I speak to the EAL portion of pronunciation? I feel like we gave them, like we gave everybody all of those links if they want to hear how the pronunciation should be happening.
No, you go ahead. You chat about this. I think they have what they need.
We've had a lot of questions about children that don't speak English. And so we just wanted to make note that it's important that, there's no translating for any of these assessments and that the pronunciation needs to be clear. And if they are incorrectly pronouncing those, scoring it as incorrect is going to identify them as needing some more intervention support in this area. So we shouldn't worry about this is basically a snapshot of what your children in your class currently know. So just like Stephanie was talking about, well, should we be teaching higher numbers right now? It's just indicative of where the group is, not necessarily how or what you should be changing in your teaching right now.
No, definitely not. That's perfect. Thank you, Kathleen.
All right, we are going to send it on to the math guru, Caroline, who is going to send us through some details about the numeracy screener.
Thanks, Kathleen. So speaking of numbers, here we are at the provincial numeracy screening assessment. Luckily on this one, we just have the one assessment. All the materials come together in one package. So from that administration side, as long as you have that administration instructions that you see pictured here and what we'll show you on the next couple slides, it's easy to organize your thinking and read through it in one setting. And so when we look at what information are we gathering through this screening assessment, it's really about those building blocks for mathematics. So in kindergarten, there are 3 components that we will be looking at, which are counting, number knowledge, and number relationships. Operations don't come into play until we get into grade 1 and beyond. And you will see in the image here on the numeracy screener materials, you need just 1 copy of the teacher package. Now within that teacher package are some components that will need to be printed so that they're ready to use with the students, such as the number cards. And I know you're looking at those numbers, 15, 20. We'll talk about that in a moment. And we also need 1 copy per child of the scoring student response sheet. And so that's what you're going to need to ensure that you request from printing services when we get to those codes at the end. So if we could move to the next one, perfect. Go back, one back, there we go. So here are our 3 components. So within counting, there's actually 3 subtests. And as Kathleen was saying, you do definitely want to read through the instruction sheets for each one of these as they give you whether or not it needs to be timed or the student gets to work at their own pace, whether it should be administered individually. The script that you use, and it is important to stick to the script. These are intended to be normed. So if we change the script or if we go beyond like where they might say you can give an example, then we change how it gets normed within the province because we're providing a little bit too much support in that instance. So don't worry if they struggle with some of those components. It's showing us where they're at. So not a concern, not a reflection on what we're doing at this time. So within counting, we are doing rote counting, which is just counting forward, looking at that stable order. We are doing counting sets, which is like those dot card images that we saw in the previous slide. And we are doing naming numbers. So this is where the numeral cards come in. And when I first saw this, I will admit, my heart skipped a beat because the numeral cards go on to multi-digit numbers that are quite large. But you can use your professional judgment how far you go within those numbers. You might have some students who actually have a really strong grasp of our number system, and isn't it great to see how far they can go? But you know, you also have some students who are still working on just recognizing the numerals 1, 2, or 3. You're going to try from 1 to 9, and beyond that, your professional judgment. The second component, the comparing numbers, this is the one, as Kathleen had mentioned before, you want to pay close attention to those instructions because when we look at this and we see all of these numbers, there is a practice component that you do before you get to this page. And if your students demonstrate that they do not understand what to do with that practice component, you would not administer this section. So you only go to this section based on how they perform during the practice. And then moving to the very last one, the numbers on a number line. Again, this might look a little bit new for your students, but definitely something that you can be building towards as you are building number paths and working with your linear calendar and so on in the classroom. This is a check-in to see where are our students with each of these domains and where do we need to provide a little bit of that support and scaffolding. So if we can go to the next one. This is an example of the components that you're going to find within those 2 booklets. So you have those instruction sheets, you have some practice questions which have those examples in, and you have an answer key, all to support you within those 2 booklets. And because there are no videos for that administration on New Learn Alberta, we have built some videos for you for all of those components, which you can find on our SharePoint site. And that has been hyperlinked here for you as well. And it's about a 3 or 4 minute video for each of those subcomponents, just going through those in a little bit more detail.
Right. Thanks, Caroline. And we do love those videos. There's a video for every single question, and they're fantastic. We also realize that this is a lot to print. This is a lot to organize with many, many children in your classrooms. And so this slide here is linked to a teacher checklist. It will tell you what copies you need of each for each assessment. It'll let you know if you need any additional materials, such as a stopwatch for the RAN. And so if you click on this, it will lead you to SharePoint and you will be able to print out one of those checklists to help you plan out what it is that you need to print. We're going to get to printing at the very, very end of this slide deck.
Okay, one thing that's come up is how do I administer this test while I still have all these children around trying to get my attention? I know that that is always kind of a difficult part in kindergarten, but we have come up with a couple of solutions that might help indicate to the other children that you are not available at that time unless there's a fire, an injury, or Taylor Swift has entered the room. So one idea has been a battery operated touch lamp. I've also seen like a little slug. You touch them, it lights up. Don't bug. That's an excellent visual indicator for kids that you are not available. There's also a beautiful, again, with Taylor Swift, you could put on the red scarf. It indicates, again, we are not available at the moment. When the scarf is off, then you can come see me, get my attention. The last could be any sort of headgear. Could be an Oilers hat, could be one of those headband boppers. Maybe it's a really glittery headband, whatever works for you. But as long as children can see that that is on right now, I am unavailable. Work with your friend. There are plenty of ideas out there. If you find a good one, send us a picture.
Yes, I definitely used the touch lamp in my classroom before. It works really, really well when you practice it. So Courtney and I took the liberty of sitting down and scheduling out what it might look like if you were to start the administration of this on December 9th. We have permission to start the administration of these screeners on December 9th and can administer them all the way through to January 31st. On January 31st, that screener, dashboard will close for everybody. All of the data needs to be in by January 31st. So what we have done is, for example, this is a schedule starting December 9th for 4-day programs. The past must be completed before the lens. And Courtney and I definitely sat down and practiced on each other and thought that if we were in our classrooms right now, we would be sitting down and trying to get 3 to 4 past and lenses completed back to back. That means that on Monday the 9th, maybe I start with Courtney and I would do her past, then I would do her lens. Then I would select 2 other students to try to get 3 students done with a total of 6 assessments. This top line is for the morning class, the bottom line is for the afternoon class. This gives us a buffer zone for, of course, no classes on Thursdays for 4-day programs, the fact that the 19th is the last day before Christmas break, and it gives you who wants to do screeners on the first day back. We're getting into the swing of things, and then moving on to hopefully the provincial numeracy screening assessment and getting a few of those done, finishing with as many RAN as you possibly can in one day since it is a little bit quicker. We also have an example on this slide deck of what it would look like if you're in a 5-day program and how your January would look. And then the following slides are blank. So teachers, you can head to the slide deck, and if you're on a 4-day program, you can print slides 35 and 36 to give yourself a blank schedule and start writing out who you might be able to assess when. And if you're a 5-day program teacher, you can head on here and print slides 37 and 38 and start putting in some names there and seeing if you're able to schedule it out. Please know this is Courtney and mine's best guess. If we were in your shoes, you do not have to do it this way, except for you do have to respect the order in which the assessments should be done. And the only order that is specified is that the past needs to be done before the lens. So that's what all of these slides are for. They are for your use.
Another issue that's coming up is, well, how am I going to keep the kids entertained and learning while I am facilitating these screeners? We are here to take a little bit of the guesswork out for you. Using your center time is going to be the most powerful tool that you have. Having a solid 45 to 60 minutes of center time is going to allow you to get those tests in while also allowing the other students to be learning. We have put together a little document of center ideas that are already hitting the outcomes in December and January that would be self-guided for children. So these would be great to reference or take right out of the pages and put into your classroom. Now, this has been a big question. Learning Services is covering the cost of the printing the screener assessments, but there is codes that need to be used for each assessment, okay? You can see the codes here at the bottom. There's one code for the numeracy screener, and then for all 3 literacy screeners, it is a second code. So when you send in your screeners to Printing Services, they need to be attached with these codes. That is the end of our session today. Thank you so much for coming. We are happy to support you on this journey in any way that we can. You can reach out to any of the consultants that are here today or that are attached to your school, and we would be happy to answer any of your questions. Thank you so much for joining us. It's almost evening this afternoon and evening, and take care.